Hey everyone, my name's Elliot Lau, and I'm the vocalist for metalcore band Hijiro from Baltimore, Maryland. This is the start of my new YouTube vocal cover page. I'm going to be doing vocal covers here. I'm going to do some vocal technique, some different tips that I've learned throughout the years of doing vocals for a metalcore band. Whether you're new to the metalcore scene and you're starting out as a vocalist, maybe you're just getting interested in doing vocals for this genre, or you're older and you've been doing it for longer and you just kind of want a new perspective on a technique or something like that. I hope that this page can be helpful. Feel free to comment at any point down below. I remember in the 7th grade, I borrowed one of my friend's iPod. He had an iPod Nano, and I believe the first album I listened to was Messengers by August Burns Red. And up until that point, I had not heard anything similar to that type of music. I predominantly listened to some alternative rock, some indie rock, but actually I wasn't even a big fan of music myself. And when I heard Jake's screams, I was just like, holy shit, what is this? Like, I need to figure out how he's doing that. Like, what is he doing? And from that point on, I pretty much knew that I wanted to at least figure out, like, what he's doing. And, like, I want to be able to do that for myself because I thought it sounded awesome. So there's middle school me. I started practicing screams in my basement whenever my entire family was out. I just kind of, like, you know, go into the bathroom and, like, try and scream. It sounded awful, awful. And honestly, I think even my practice attempts were awful for almost 4 or 5 months. Like, they were unbearably bad. Anyone that would have heard it during that period of time would have just laughed at me. Like, it was awful. But you really do need to push yourself. You really do need to kind of get over that initial hump of, like, figuring out what you're even doing. Unless you have the opportunity to have a vocal teacher, or you can look up on YouTube. At the time, I wasn't even, like, looking up on YouTube how to do it. I was just trying to figure it out myself. I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, I didn't even know that they had tutorials on there for that. A couple months go by. I'm beginning to get my feet off the ground. I feel like I'm not, like, destroying my vocal cords every time I scream. I was also, you know, going through puberty at the time, so that was also pretty difficult to kind of overcome that obstacle on top of that. So if you're a younger vocalist and you're kind of going around that stage of your life, just know that your voice is going to change, the way that you scream is going to change, and that's okay because, as I said before, there's no one sure technique that gives you the best screams. You got to find it out for yourself. You really got to know what your voice can do in order to use it in a way that you want it. You have to train your voice to do what you want it to do, not have your voice dictate what you do. So you really need to, it starts here, and you got to make this work. I was in choir at the time. I did choir and band, but not like any sort of rock instrument. It was like saxophone. I played saxophone for several years, and I was in choir. And I remember after one choir rehearsal, I went up and talked to my choir teacher. And I was like, so I'm into this type of music. She was an older woman. She was like, oh yeah, I used to be in a metal band myself when I was younger. I was like, what? And so I was like, can you teach me how to scream? And so that she actually gave me a couple pointers that really helped me to get to a point that I felt like I could hold my own for a long period of time. Because up until that point, my voice would be in incredible amounts of pain after just screaming for 5 to 10 minutes. And I knew that that wasn't right. And what she really helped me to do was build up. She taught me how to build up the ability to put your voice through that sort of distress without actually damaging it. And it took, I want to say, a year straight of just training every day, just practicing every day, practicing my screams, practicing my breathing technique, practicing my enunciation, because I had a little bit of a lisp, and so that was a little bit of an issue. But I actually kind of incorporated that into my screams now. So just because you might have a minor speech impediment, something like that, it doesn't mean that you can't be a vocalist. It doesn't mean that it's going to actually even damage you. You can just use the way that your voice is. Remember, it starts up here, and you can make it do what you want it to do, and you can incorporate that into your vocals. Flash forward a couple years, me and a couple buddies from my school and my church actually got together, and we started, it was just me and 2 other guys, started the first band that I was ever in. And there's something to be said about practicing with a group of guys that you're friends with and then performing in front of a group of people that you've never met before. Because I remember the first show that I played, it was in Baltimore at the Auto Bar. It really pushes you to a new level, and that's when I really fell in love with doing the music. Up until that point, like, it's fun to practice in your buddy's basement. It's fun to, you know, record some demos on some equipment in your basement, and it's fun to have people, you know, like, listen to your music, show your friends and family. But when you get up in front of people that you've never met before and that you've never seen before, it really pushes you kind of into a new mindset, and that's when I think I first really realized that this is something that I want to do. Over the next year, while I was in that band, the hardest part for me as a vocalist was building up the endurance to actually make it through a set. My first band, we had about 5 songs total. We were going to release a small EP. We never got around to it. The hardest part for me was just building up the stamina to make it through a show, because after one song, especially that first time when you get out on stage and the lights are there and the people are there and the music's loud and everyone's looking at you, you get so hyped up and you just like want to go out and give it your all, and that's great, but you run out of energy within halfway through the first song, especially if you're not preparing for that kind of thing. So that was the hardest part for me over the next year, was learning to build up the stamina for one, and then secondly, control your energy on stage, because you need to be confident on stage, you need to be exciting, you need to draw people in, but at the same time, you can't be exerting so much energy that you can no longer perform, because the performance is another huge part of that. So you've got your image that you need to uphold, but at the same time, you need to uphold your performance, because if your music sounds like shit, then no one's even going to want to come see you in the first place, even if you're kind of fun. The second biggest issue for me was really having a controlling presence on stage. For me, that was always kind of a hard thing. I'm a kind of small dude. I know there are a lot of small vocalists out there, but especially with some of the bands that we would play with, it would be pretty intimidating to see these bigger guys up there, like big beards, big dudes, muscly, like screaming away, looking like really intimidating. For me, I was more of the running around, running through the venue, tripping over tables, like screaming my brains out. And I mean, people liked it. It was fun, but exerted, again, as I said before, too much energy. And you need to be able to control the stage and control the audience. And to do that, it takes a lot of work. So I would practice in front of a mirror a lot. I'd practice screaming in front of a mirror, practice my facial gestures while I was performing, because so much of what's happening between you and the audience comes from here. And I think that's something that you just learn over time. And I'll probably do a couple videos on that, some tips that I've learned throughout the years. The third biggest issue for me was talking to the crowd, because when I'm put in the spot, sometimes I would be like, I wouldn't know what to say. I remember one of the first shows I ever played with the band that I'm in now. I was still pretty young at the time. I think I was 17 when I joined that band, and I was kind of pushed into it pretty quickly. Didn't know the songs as well as I would have liked to, and didn't know the guys as well as I would have liked to, didn't know the band and what we stood for as well as I would have liked to, and getting up and having to talk about some of the songs, I remember that was incredibly overwhelming at first, just not knowing what to say in between songs, stuttering a lot, and that's really embarrassing, but you really do need to have those moments. You're going to have those days where stuff doesn't go as well, and you mess up, and that's okay, because it's all part of the learning experience. As long as you can come out of that with a lesson to implement, that way you don't make that mistake again, then you're making progress, and that's fine. When you're just starting out, don't expect people to come to your shows, because it's not going to happen. I mean, you might get a couple friends, a couple families to come out, but I think one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn when I was starting out was that nobody cares about your music. I mean, your family might care, you might have a couple friends who care, but you're not going to get these big shows with big crowds, and that's just not reality. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to be putting in more than you're getting out, and that's a lesson that you're going to have to learn. I'm sure that you can talk to any musician who's kind of reached the point where they actually have people come out to their shows now. We've all played those shows where nobody showed up. I remember with my first band, it was like the second or third show that we ever played, and we played for an empty room. We played for the sound man, and I remember coming down off of the stage afterward and just looking at my drummer, and I was like, dude, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to either. And it's a really hard point to get past, because you can give your all, you can work your ass off, you can have great material, but if people don't like the genre, friends don't like the genre, your family doesn't like the genre, when you start out, you're not going to have people come. Like, they're just not going to come to those shows. You might get an opening slot for a bigger band that you like. Maybe then you'll get a couple people to come out, but you really need to. It's a good test of whether or not you're cut out for the music scene. Because if you're not cut out for the music scene, that's going to be a big hurdle for you, and you're not going to be able to kind of progress past that. But if you care about the music and you have a passion for what you're doing, that's a great test. It's a great indicator of where your heart is and whether or not you should continue down this road, because it's going to be hard. Anyway, it was great getting to introduce myself, kind of tell a little bit of my story. I'm going to be continuing to post vocal technique videos on here. I'm going to continue to talk about experiences that I've had in the music scene up until this point. Down below, you can check out, there's my Twitter link there. I post a lot of stupid shit. It's not really anything important, but if you don't got anything better to do, go ahead and follow me there. Send a tweet out at me if you watch this video. Other than that, if you've got any questions, feel free to comment below. Feel free to send me a message on Twitter or on here. I'm just here to be any help that I can, and I'm super excited to kind of get this page off the ground. Thanks.